Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of O365Eh. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the newly GA'd features, unified presence, interop messaging, contact migration, federated chat and calling, and direct routing, all related to Microsoft Teams. So, Michael, do you want to lead us out?
Yeah, so if you take a look at unified presence, this is pretty big, where now it doesn't matter which client you're using. So if I'm signed into my tenant and I have the Skype for Business client and the Teams client, any of my interactions kind of go across both products. So if I'm in a call into Teams, my Skype for Business client's going to now show that I'm in a call as well. So now you don't have this. When you're in islands mode, you don't have this issue where, you have contacts pinging you on Skype for Business while you're, maybe in Do Not Disturb or in a meeting on Teams. So now you have that unified view. Presence works a little bit differently in Teams where it's kind of a push. So Teams, when you change your status, it shows up in Skype for Business pretty quickly. When you do an update of your presence in Skype for Business, Teams actually kind of pulls it on an interval every 5 minutes or so. So it seems like the interval changes depending on how often that's changing. But there could be some delays if you update your status in Skype before it's shown into Teams or for your Teams contacts. This, however, doesn't really work when you're guest access. So if you're signed into another tenant using guest access, that presence is not going to follow all the way through to your home tenant. So you have to keep mindful of that. Also, Teams doesn't have the ability to reset status. So if you manually override your status, back in the Skype for Business days, you would, if you flipped yourself to green to talk to someone and then you're busy, you could just hit reset status and it would update from your calendar or whatever, or what you're actively doing. Teams doesn't have that. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of carries on going forward. And then, there's no reset in the status there.
And Michael, the reset of the status, we were talking, you made a good point. So if I'm in Teams and my status updates based on what I'm doing, and then I manually override it, it'll update in Skype for Business, but there's no way to reset that back to the native sort of what Teams thinks it should be, right?
Yeah, I was finding that when I was kind of playing with the status, I would change it in Teams, it'd automatically show up in Skype, and then I'm like, I want to actually show my calendar, so then I'd actually hit reset status in Skype, just wait a minute or two for it to reflect back into Teams. So I'm still having to have the two clients, but at least it's a little bit more consistent, especially when you're communicating with people that are Skype for Business only, and also some people that are Teams only.
Mm. Well,
not having to flip the status on two clients at the same time to try and keep everything at bay.
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of Skype for Business and Teams, of course, the topic of interoperability between the two is really important. A lot of enterprises have Skype for Business deployed today, and as they roll out Teams in the various coexistence modes, you'll still want your users to be able to, Teams users to talk to Skype for Business users. So that's known as interoperability. So that exists, that's GA'd recently. So that gives you, or end users, the ability to IM and communicate between the applications. And this is particularly important in islands mode, which is the default coexistence mode. Important to note that the modalities included are the ability to chat, IM, and voice and video, but there's no desktop sharing, at least yet. And there's no multi-party conversations between the two applications. So if you start a multi-party session in Teams, it has to be all Teams participants, and likewise in Skype for Business. And also another key limitation there right now is you can't escalate from a peer-to-peer to a group or a meeting experience. I think I read that Microsoft plans to deliver that escalation experience, but it's not there right now. Also important to note this interop between Skype for Business and Teams. That's only for Skype for Business online. There's no interop with Skype for Business on-prem. And so I've been using it. it's nice. At least you can now communicate with your Skype for Business online contacts. It is limited and it is basic. So combined with the presence that Michael just described, it's at least there's some interop between the two, but it's still a little bit limited right now.
It's a big learning curve for some users that are used to that smooth transition of modalities, right? Where no matter what modality you start with, is a message or whatever, you can just scale it up and scale it down to what you need. Add whiteboard, desktop share, make it a conference. So there is some of that difference in the workflow now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in keeping on with the integration, the contact migration portion of the interop. So right now, Microsoft is lighting it up in the tenants, and it's going to be coming out where all of your Skype for Business contacts within your Skype for Business online tenant. So it's only within your organization are going to be imported into your Teams client. So if you have federated contacts that are in your Skype for Business buddy list or contact list, they won't be included in this first iteration of the import. In addition, it's sort of a one-time thing right now. I haven't seen it as part of there's a way to do a refresh or adding a new person or a new buddy in my Skype contact if it gets refreshed into the Teams client, or what the interval is like as well. Additionally, if you have the calling features capability, your Outlook contacts are imported or are visible inside the calling section within Teams, so that you can actually search and for a specific contact and dial them specifically. So that's one thing that I thought that was pretty interesting, that you can view the Outlook contacts there as well.
Yeah, and if you're, in terms of the federated chat and calling updates, so if you're a fan of Federation and Skype, which I think everyone is, what's there not to like about the feature? It's finally come out to Teams. It's been rolled out. So, like you would think, this allows you to federate with an external party. So, for example, I'm on Teams. I'd like to be able to chat with somebody that's in Skype for Business. I can simply look up that person's SIP address and begin chatting with them. Today, it's one-to-one feature in terms of the feature set. One-to-one is supported. You've got instant messages that go back and forth. It's all plain text, so there's no emoji support at this point or stickers. Voice and video are supported today, and your persistence will last about 30 days in your chats. What's not supported is file transfer, group chats, rich messaging, or photos. So I personally think it's a great step forward, and it's a feature I believe that they'll continue to expand upon. There's policies you can use to enable the domains you'd like to allow. So you could allow, for example, using the set CS tenant federation configuration, you've got allow federated users, allow domains and block domains, similar to what you had in Skype for Business. This is basically turned on, so you don't have to do anything as an administrator to enable it, except enable the policy if you'd like to block specific domains. So I'd encourage everybody to try it out and see what you think.
And Dino, I think there's a master switch at the tenant level where you just turn Federation off if you didn't want it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's going to be on by default, and if you just for some reason don't want to turn it on, you can throw that master switch for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and the last thing I think we're talking about today is direct routing. So direct routing has gone general availability today. The change from preview to GA was there's a few changes from GA to preview, but what direct routing is the ability to bring PSTN to Microsoft Teams as an alternative to Microsoft calling plans. So the changes from preview to GA is there's still the 3 supported SBC vendors, AudioCodes, Ribbon, and ThinkTel. But in addition to that, there's now about 10 additional carriers or partners that are also providing telephony. So these partners are using certified SBCs in parallel with their telco services and then selling that as like a multi-tenant service to their customers. So some of those are, BT, Orange, Swisscom, Tata, Dutch Telecom, Telenor, ThinkTel, of course, West, New Wave, and Cell IP, and Bees Q, I think, is the list of 10.
So I've been using direct routing through the ThinkTel offering for a while. What do you guys think? I think you've all tried it too, right? Any good experiences, bad experiences? I quite like it. I've actually been using it on my iPhone using the Teams mobile client. I've actually been really impressed with the quality. It's been pretty solid.
Yeah, I found it to be, as a former Skype ThinkTel customer, the transition to direct routing was fairly seamless. I haven't noticed any issues. The call quality is exactly like it was in Skype. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think it was like about maybe a 10 to 15 minute setup in order to get all the commandlets underway. And then after that, once the I guess the synchronization happened with your phone number coming down into the Teams client, and after that, I haven't had any problems at all as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, full disclosure, I work for ThinkTel, but what we're seeing is the longest or the biggest delay is actually the replication within Office 365. So you fire off some commands, you have to wait for, the custom domain to light up. You have to wait for the, licenses to light up, the phone numbers and stuff like that. But yeah, we're able to light that up in under 15 minutes, pending replication.
Cool.
Now, I think the big thing here is, all these announcements, I think Dino said it best was, this is a giant first step. I don't think we can call it, one and done, but it is definitely a huge step in getting that feature parity with Skype for Business. And, once you get over that hurdle, it'll be interesting to see how Teams uses AI and machine learning and all the cloud advancements to just take some of these functions or these features and take it to the next level.
Yeah, I'd really like to see Federation include a way to participate in Teams. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but it's no secret I'm not a huge fan of guest access. I mean, it does what it needs to do to allow users to participate in other teams, and that's great. But of course, when you're in those teams, you're missing calls, and presence isn't working as it should. So I'd like to see Federation pick up on that and be more like it is in Skype for Business. And I think that's something that's being worked on, and hopefully we'll see. I mean, I'm not sure what you guys think about that, but I think that'd be a welcome feature.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, the ability to have, to sign into multiple tenants in one Teams client versus having to flip out and back into the different tenants. I think that would be a huge one as well, and maybe sort of bridge the gap between the guest access and missing phone calls and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, my typical day is, for the most part, I'm working within one tenant, so a set of teams within that tenant for the majority of that day. But I want to be able to communicate to all my contacts. I don't want to be switching tenants to, for certain types of communication. I just want to be able to talk to everyone. Everyone knows my status. If I'm available, ping me. If I'm busy, stay away, or send me another message to say, hey, when you're available, come talk to me. I mean, there is no concept of tagging as well. So I mean, that was a huge feature, is being able to tag someone, and when their status changes, hey, they're available, I can go send them a message or poke them. So it'll be interesting to see how that all rounds out. I do find it a little frustrating that the contacts were migrated, but not the federated contacts, but we can do Federation. So then I'm manually adding federated contact SIP addresses to start that communication when they were in my contact list before.
Yeah, I mean, I think the four of us all are looking forward to the day where we can just completely cut over to Teams and completely get rid of Skype for Business, just to simplify our lives. And the Federation's a key piece to that. It needs to be a first-class citizen along with the multi-tenant experience. So all the stuff we talked about today, like Michael said, it's a great first step, and especially the Interop, it now allows you to coexist in more tenants and more different ecosystems, but I think this thing will need to evolve a bit before, at least for us, Teams is a viable 100% day-to-day application that we use, and nothing but Teams.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks everybody for joining in today, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Take care.
See ya.